Live from the SABC headquarters in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, welcome to this evening's episode of our current affairs program, On the Record. My name is Vuyo Mvoko. Well, as the past year showed, universities can become roaring engines of all types of social change. South Africa's universities are now the new site of struggle in every way imaginable. Not only are our students fighting for greater access by bigger numbers of young people, our youth also seems determined to use universities to engineer fundamental social change. Not to be left out, political parties too are making their presence felt at universities with all the polarizing effect that party politics can sometimes have. In tonight's debate, we bring you presidents of different SRCs from different universities who, although bound by some broad common agenda, are often limited in their approaches by the agendas of the different political parties that they belong to. So, what can we expect from our students in 2016? This being an election year, what could be the impact of the often polarizing party politics on student struggles? We do encourage you to take part in tonight's discussions. Our Twitter handle is OTR_404. Well, before we get to that higher education debate, let's quickly get on to tonight's big story, which is also about education, basic education, that is.
Jubilation as gates were opened and sirens sounded, signaling the start of the academic year. In KwaZulu-Natal, education officials will be deployed to schools that performed badly. And in the Western Cape, pupils were eager to kickstart their year. Woma Secondary School is registered as the most improved school in the past 3 years.
I'm so excited, not because I'm out of primary. I thought I was never going to get out of primary, but because I thought I was going to fail, I didn't trust myself.
Children from Masiphumelele near Fishhook had a difficult 2015 due to protest action, but this did not deter them.
I would like this year to be free so that they can allow us to study well and study hard so that we can just succeed in our goals.
In Bombela, there were mixed feelings about the day, with some shedding a tear or two. The day was a mixed bag in Gauteng. It started with an opening of a brand new state-of-the-art primary school.
It really gives us lots of hope for our children, for our country, and it's just really humbling and very exciting to see that government can also offer such good facilities for a community like this one.
Then a visit to Ribanelaga Secondary School. The township school in Mamelodi received a 100% pass rate.
The education department helps us to improve the performance of township schools because it is particularly there that we have done very well with the 2015 matric results.
Gauteng MEC Panyaza Lesufi had to make one urgent stop at one troubled school. Angry parents and SGB members at Omonde Primary School sent back their children saying they won't allow them to be exposed to unsafe and unhygienic sanitation facilities. There are only 20 mobile toilets at the school for 700 pupils.
I'm going to meet the municipality now, but I want before the end of this week, and the end of this week is 2 days' time, that we find a way of solving this problem. From my understanding is that there is a certain paper that does not speak a certain language with a certain paper. So these two papers, they need an interpreter so that they can speak to each other and allow us to have a facility here. So that's what we want.
It's hoped 2016 will be a glitch-free academic year. Sibongile Mkani Polweni, SABC News.
Well, it's been a relatively smooth start to the 2016 academic year. However, some of the lingering issues of the past could be dragged into the current year. Political parties are unanimous that, amongst other things, teachers must be in class on time teaching.
The 2015 academic year ended on a bleak note. The matric results dropped to 70.7%, and the annual national assessments never got off the ground. Teacher unions are opposed to the assessment in its current form.
As the ANC, we support ANA fully. And we think that among the stakeholders within the sector, there's got to be some dialogue. It's important. But we can't say ANA was anything wrong, because I think it has helped us to make sure that in between, towards the end of academic year or the learning, we're able to pick up some weaknesses in the system.
Certainly heading into 2016, many questions remain. The timeless delivery of learning and teaching material, the prevalence of violence in schools, and also the destruction of school infrastructure at the hands of disgruntled community members. The old age debate has resurfaced. Should education be declared an essential service?
Absolutely. I believe that education actually is one of the essential services. It's the number one as far as I'm concerned, because no country can get anywhere if our people are not educated, if people don't acquire skills.
The state itself must set standards that ensure that all that is required for public servants and all of that is done such that they have no time to disrupt schools, etc., etc. And communities must understand every year that is lost in the life of their children never comes back.
And as learning and teaching is plugged into the digital era, the race is on to get every child into a classroom.
We must see an education system that opens up opportunities for all South Africans. We must ensure that the work that we've got to do today is to make sure there are teachers and classrooms. We must make sure there are classrooms above kids. We must make sure every child who starts school gets textbooks.
And as schooling gets underway, it's hoped that 2016 holds better prospects than last year. Aldrin Simpier, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, we're going to take a quick ad break. After the break, up close and personal with COSAS, the often controversial COSAS Secretary Kulegani Skosana.
COSAS, Southern Africa's leading distance learning institution, accredited, affordable and accessible management education programs, higher certificates, diplomas, undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. Register at ManCOSA and be part of Southern Africa's leading private business school. Visit our website mancosa.co.za. ManCOSA, management education reimagined.
Preparing for victory requires intense effort and teamwork. When you get to it, there is no turning back, because all eyes are on you. When it's action time, nothing should stand in your way. Sports Live tackles and analyzes all the sports action. This is the home of all your sport news, updates and more. Sports Live weekdays at 8:30 p.m.
Vera Ephraim defied family and traditions to follow her dream.
Decided that I'm going to prove to them that they were wrong.
The first breakthrough came in when she was studying and touring in Europe.
That was my first breakthrough.
Generations was her first television debut in South Africa.
It was my first gig. I was very excited. I was very happy. I said, yeah, this is confirmation I'm at the right place.
After pain, rejection, and suffering, her dream became a reality.
I followed my path, and I'm happy and grateful and blessed.
Join your host, Puleng Mulabati, on Rupilong every Friday at 17:30.
Welcome back, and if you've just joined us, you're watching on The Record. We're coming to you live from SABC News headquarters here in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Our first guest for tonight is Kulegani Skosana, who is the Secretary of Student Organization, the Congress of South African Students. Welcome, sir, and thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, as always.
Well, schools have opened again. Once again, promises are being made about schools that are going to be built, about better teaching and better learning, and about all manner of things. How optimistic are you?
Look, we're very...
2016 is going to be a better year.
We're very optimistic. You would note that all the best performing learners who come from townships would be kids who come from shacks, who come from villages, who study with candles. They've proven that whether you study under the tree or in an air-conditioned room, a black child can progress, a black child can produce results. But that doesn't mean, therefore, we must keep quiet about the conditions of infrastructure in our schools. We're still saying we must meet the norms and standards prescribed in the South African Schools Act about what we call a school. A school must have a fence, it must have a classroom, and it must have security, which is a big element we're focusing on in 2016. Buitumelo Dlamini was taken from school premises last year and was banned to death. Had there been security personnel at the gate, it would have happened differently. So we're saying that CPF is not enough. You cannot take an old man who is unemployed, who's getting his pension, and you say to that person, he must take care of children. Those people, they sleep the whole day. CPF is not even satisfied with the money they are receiving. So they are the very same people involved in the stealing of assets. We don't understand how the South African government can invest 3 million in a school in terms of assets but they are unable to put 1,000 rand to protect those assets. It seems to us deliberately that they don't want us to have these things. You remember in Malamulela.
Why would they do it deliberately?
A perfect example is Malamulela. 5 schools were burnt down in Malamulela. Students were refused their chance to go to school, but not a single ATM was bombed because there was police present there. So we have a problem with how the police prioritize the safety of students. Instead of seeing us as their children they should be taking care of, they see us as people they should be putting in their fence. They see us as people who are time consuming and who keep them away from the real crime. It's very entertaining for police to arrest students, and we are saying the same thing which our parents did to the police in 1976. We are prepared to do it in 2016, and we have shown that we can mobilize. We are in majority in this country. About 40%, if I'm not wrong, of the population, it's young people who are under the age of 25, and we are saying that a time will come where we will be unable to listen to the old people who deny us free education.
Now, apart from security issues and being in class, what are your other issues?
Our other issues, for example, the food which is provided at school is not food that a minister or MEC can eat. Currently, you find that a prisoner in South Africa enjoys better food, enjoys better conditions than a learner. There is no prison which is built with zinc, but you find a school in a neighborhood that has tiles built in zinc. A learner in South Africa, a black child, a monkey, must use a zinc to bath in the morning, move out of a zinc shack and go to school in a zinc school. And you are saying that person must be inspired by the progress of the country. We are saying as young people, if the old citizens are not prepared to take care of us, the same thing they did when their parents were reluctant, were prepared to do the same thing. They forget that the revolutionary zeal which they had in them, they have transferred it to us. So they shouldn't be surprised when we move and act the same way they did. Rubber bullets is candy to us. We're not afraid of rubber bullets and stun grenades. If the police are going to challenge young people, they must know that they have to do to us what they did to our parents.
But I mean, isn't it ironic that you're talking tough here?
Yes.
You're talking about a whole range of things that have not been done, or that are not being done, or that you are not being taken seriously. Yet, you sit alongside the very people who have the power and who are responsible or in charge of the means to do the things that are supposed to be done. Do you ever raise those things with them? I mean, you are in many ways part of the ANC movement?
Yes,
movement.
in more ways than one. We support the African National Congress. We believe in President Jacob Zuma, because people do not understand that there has been more service delivery in Jacob Zuma's administration than there was during Nelson Mandela and Thabo Mbeki combined. So we recognize those facts because the media does not speak about those things.
But
we
do you raise the issues that you've just raised?
We raise the issues. That is why you are finding that in Gauteng in particular.
Are you being listened to?
Yes, in many other provinces.
But
Even
why
the MEC of Western Cape, who's not ANC, is forced to listen to us. That is why we're assisting students in Western Cape even today. Today we assisted 87 students in the Western Cape who were refused their results because of not being able to pay school fees. So as much as our brothers and sisters in university are saying that fees must not be paid, we're happy with the ANC because since we've started raising these things, remember COSAS is 36 years old. We didn't just mushroom to raise issues. Since we've been raising them since 1994 through the leadership of Lebogang Maile, we've been able to scrap exam fees. And just recently, we're improving the quality of feeding scheme. As I've highlighted, that prisoners eat better. And we're saying that that must end. A child must not, to get free education, you must be a prisoner in South Africa. And we cannot accept that.
So if you are being listened to, as you say you are, then you wouldn't be talking the language that you are talking. That's why I'm getting confused.
Yeah. We went to
because you should be able to say, yes, these things have not happened just yet, but we are confident or positive that they are going to happen, that we are being listened to and measures are being put in place to address our concerns. But that's not where you started. You started fighting, saying that, suggesting that nothing actually is happening.
Vuyo, I'm a fighter like you. You also used to fight. But apart from that, the president, we went to him and said, President, we don't want fees to increase. The president issued a moratorium on the increasing of fees. I think that is leadership, listening to young people. And as an elder, as a parent, you will not listen to everything your child says because you feel they need to convince you. And we appreciate that because that is how we get swallowed into leadership, because we have to understand that you cannot get everything that you want. You have to convince them and you have to bring reason, and that is what we're trying to do. And at this point, we need and we have numbers of students who are behind us saying we want free education. 800,000 matriculants wrote their matric last year. Only 30% of those have failed. It means we have around about 500,000 students who are supposed to be entering into universities, but they are not enough. Even if you can take all the students who are protesting at VETs and chase them out, the universities and TVET colleges will not be enough to swallow the students who are graduating from high schools. Even high schools themselves, they do not meet the demand from primary schools. So I don't understand these people on TV who says, no, 500,000 students who entered grade 1 are now no longer in grade 12. They fail to understand that white students, if I can say that, receive their results in December, meaning that they get a better chance to prepare for the next year. They get a better chance to adjust. You will never find them in queues in universities. You'll never find them.
Why is that?
That is because they are taken care of and they are given a chance to prepare early. That is what we have a problem with the ANC government, that they give students who pay for education results before the public results are announced. We have a problem with the newspapers who publish our results and are unable to transfer that profit into bursaries, into scholarships, into assisting students. They just have profit out of that. So
what for you is responsible for the still very high failure rate?
The failure rate is informed by the conditions which our students in townships have to go through. You have to know that students who come from suburban schools walk to school, they're dropped off by their parents at school. Your parent has to wake up, my parent has to wake up at 4 a.m. to be the first person at the factory to prepare coffee for the boss. And we cannot allow this system to recreate a domestic worker, to recreate a garden boy. I don't want to work at ShopRite or KFC. I want to be an engineer. And I believe that if we open the gates of education, just like Oliver Tambo and the Freedom Charter have clearly stipulated, and people have lost their lives for what we are calling for today.
So when will it end? When will this vicious cycle that is taking us nowhere end?
Look, we know that banning the country will not help us. We're not going to stop education, but we're saying that we are continuing the fight. As much as Nelson Mandela, who knew that the people who were teaching him at Fort Hare were not his people, he still went there and acquired the white man's education so that he can use it against them, and that's how he became president of the country. He did not do a fees must fall. He went and got his qualifications, and that is what we are trying to do.
Lastly and very briefly, the role of teachers. What do you think in 2016 should be the role of teachers in ensuring that the African child not only goes to school but succeeds, passes?
A teacher should be a parent, a teacher should be a friend, a teacher should be somebody who does not believe in taboos. I think that I must be able to be comfortable on issues with my teacher than I am with my parent. But in this instance, you find that factions within unions, within different organizations in the school premises inform a relationship between a teacher and a learner. A teacher is reluctant to teach because of the pay they are not receiving. So teachers should stop being percentage orientated, and they must be results orientated, and that is how
on time teaching.
Yes, www.COSAS.COSA. Thank you very much.
Kulegani Skosana, the Secretary of the Congress of South African Students. Well, that's where we are going to leave it for this part of our conversation. Up next, we talk to university student leaders. That's after this short ad break.
COSAS, Southern Africa's leading distance learning institution, accredited, affordable and accessible management education programs, higher certificates, diplomas, undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. Register at ManCosa and be part of Southern Africa's leading private business school. Visit our website mancosa.co.za. ManCosa, management education reimagined.
Morning Live sets the agenda for the day.
We bring you the latest local and international news.
We are on the ball with all your sports activities and results.
We give you the latest business update.
We bring you the latest weather every time.
Watch Morning Live every weekday morning at 6 o'clock, bringing you everything you need to know before you go. Shab shab, tada.
Well, institutions of higher learning, 2 UNISA campuses in Pretoria were closed today after entrances to the campuses were barricaded. Protesters refused employees entry, and adverts registrations commenced after they were suspended earlier this week.
Face-to-face registrations finally underway at the University of the Witwatersrand. Hundreds of first-time science students registered on Wednesday. Although grateful to have their children attend, parent concerns go beyond registration.
We are pensioners. We are looking at government to assist so she can continue studying and not be useless.
Also here, a small group of protesting students. The university is adamant that registrations will continue. It says contingency plans are in place.
We've managed to register a few hundred students already this morning. Face-to-face registrations are taking place, as well as telephonic and online registrations. Today we're only registering for first years for the Faculty of Science, and tomorrow and Friday we'll be registering for Humanities and Commerce Law and Management. We have increased security on the campus and we have contingency plans in place if any disruptions are tried this morning.
Gates were closed at neighbouring University of Johannesburg. Students have been urged to use online facilities. Registration was affected at UNISA. This is striking workers and students denied non-striking employees access onto campuses.
In the interest of the safety of our workers and the safety of our building structures, it was best that we close the campus down. And then the reason that we did that is that when we arrived this morning to report for duty, we found that the protesters had actually blocked entrances into the two campuses.
A dispatch warehouse was also allegedly ransacked.
This is going to cause a delay in terms of the delivery of the study material to students who are already registered for the 2016 academic year. We must say, as a university, we condemn this action in the strongest terms possible.
Leaders of the #outsourcing must fall have denied this. Management is urging prospective students to use online platforms and other UNISA service centres. Students at the University of the Free State want management to waive all outstanding fees from last year. The SRC says at least 5 million rands is needed to assist needy students.
And from the fees must fall last year, the universities are still crying that they cannot afford the demands that we're currently making. But also we as a country cannot afford to not produce graduates. We cannot sell education as a commodity to the highest bidder.
The SRC has managed to raise 1.2 million rand through a fundraising drive. The money will assist students such as 18-year-old Zolile Ngubenyati. He matriculated with 4 distinctions. Mahlako Komane, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, Fees Must Fall has dominated headlines since it started late last year. And joining me here in the studio are some of the student leaders who have been part of this movement. We are going to be discussing what's on the agenda for this year and, of course, whether politics is not going to mess with the agenda of South African university students. Well, let's go straight to our interview. Now, we were, of course, expecting a couple of other people who haven't as yet arrived. We wanted to speak to several SRC leaders from across the country, from various universities, rural, semi-rural, as well as urban, just to get a sense of what exactly is on the agenda of university students this year. Let me start with you, Mcebo Dlamini. From where VETS students are sitting, what is or should top the agenda of university students in 2016?
Well, thank you very much for having us. Well, to be honest with you, Vuyo, is that the challenges are still the same. The challenges that we are facing today as black students are the same students that Onkgobotse Tiro faced in 1972. Nothing has changed. We are still talking about access to universities, to institutions of higher learning. Now, the issue now, back then, students were deprived access to institutions of higher learning through racial lines. Now we are deprived access to institutions of higher learning using finances. So now we are fighting finances which are being used as a stop nonsense to prevent the black masses from accessing education. So that's the issue. That's the agenda now. Because in as much as those who get into those universities, we have people who graduated in 2010. They can't be employed. They've graduated, but they are owing those universities. The university is sitting with those results of that black child. He can't be employed. So those are the issues that we are raising. We are saying to these universities, hey, you have reserves. Mostly those universities which were former apartheid universities, they benefited from that time and they have billions in their reserves. They don't need that money. We are saying to this university, if you have a student who have already qualified, who have graduated, release the results, allow the students to go and work. Then you get into at least an agreement with the employer to pay you, or else you just scrap out that debt because you don't need that money. Government, one thing that our parents don't know when they critique these protests, government pays universities for first years they admit. The number of first years universities admit, they are paid. Lump sum, forget about NSFAS. The number of first years, that's why universities like Wits University, they accept more first years than they could accommodate, so that they exclude them in June. Already government has already paid for 8,000. They will have received the money. You understand? So government, they also get paid for the number of graduates. You are paid for intake and those who have graduated. So there is money that the universities are actually making through the intake and the students who graduate.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to hold your thought right there and go to Nicholas. Nicholas Nyati is the SRC president of the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. For you, what are the big issues? What are the biggies for 2016?
Thank you, Vuyo. The biggest issues are still student debt and registration, because registration, as Mcebo has outlined, is acting as a stop nonsense. But with us, we've investigated as to what is causing this. And if you look back at the history, from 2008 until now, student subsidies have went down from 21,000 to 16,000. Now, these are the student subsidies that government contributes to the universities per head. Hence, university fees are going up. Now, with the movements like Fees Must Fall, the government is providing us with short-term solutions, solutions that are not sustainable. This year, we are calling for sustainable solutions. The ultimate goal is for free higher education for the poor, because we want to see our brothers and sisters graduating and prospering.
Where to now for the Fees Must Fall movement?
Well, look, to be honest with you, this has been coming from a long time now. I mean, we are sitting on a time-ticking bomb. And unfortunately, our government, they are failing to address the problem. This is cancer. You know, when someone has cancer, you ban cancer. You know, that's how they treat it. Now, government is labeling these students who are protesting for a genuine cause to say there is a third force. Immediately when they make that mistake, they are running away from reality, and it will come back to hit hard, like the same way it hit hard in December. Now, from here, we are saying, look, because students will register. Only those who could afford to register will register. But those who are from the poor of the poorest backgrounds, like from the deep rural as Lalin, where are you going to get 10,000 rand in January? That's the registration fee for Wits University. Where are you going to get that money? We are not talking about accommodation, res, food, just access to register. Now, we said to the minister earlier last year, we said control the monopoly of universities. Before we even talk about free education, control the monopoly. What do we mean by that? It can't be that a simple degree at University of Johannesburg, a BA degree is 28,000. A BA degree at Wits is 50,000. Same content. That's an insult to a black child.
But is the Fees Must Fall campaign at Wits, where you are, coordinated, number one? Are you speaking in one voice, or has there been, as some alleged early this week, a lot of confusion with various leaders coming from, you know, all sorts of different corners, confusing the issue and thereby diluting the message, or what is supposed to be a unified message of students?
Well, Vuyo, this is a revolution. Now, a revolution runs a risk of being hijacked. Now, once the revolution don't have leaders, opportunists will take over. Because the government, the ANC government, has already declared the leaders of these students as a third force. We have already labeled them as an outcast.
What do you think is going to be the effect of that?
The effect of that is because they are now, I would simply say they are now stray dogs because we have labeled them as outcasts. They don't have a sense of belonging. Because you are running away from listening to the genuine concerns. There is one voice, because we are all black, young people in this country who are affected. The problem is access. So immediately that unites us. The challenges that we face, whether you are from the township like I am, and someone who's from Eslalini, we are faced with one thing, which is poverty. And then when we are trying to break the chain of poverty, we are deprived that opportunity by capital. Because universities are controlled by capital. Probably that's what we must also look at.
Share your experiences at MMU. Is the situation as chaotic as some people believe it is, certainly at VETS?
I don't want to call it chaotic. Let's call it a revolution, as Umcebo has outlined. This is a reflection of the failures of the government, the mistake that the sector is doing. To be quite honest, you don't have a minister. And there's a quote that says, a fish starts rotting from the head is rotten. And I believe that for us to truly, for a black child to feel safe being governed by a black government, we need to remove the head that is rotten. How is it? We need to ask ourselves one question. How is it as a black child I feel oppressed, yet I have a black government?
Well, I mean, the minister is supposed to meet with, SRCs, leaders of the various SRCs. If you were to, what are you going to tell him sitting in front of him?
This is the same minister who said the students must fall. Now he's calling a meeting. In that meeting, I'm expecting nothing but a reaction, just to silence us, because that's what he's good at. So for me, I'm going there to tell him the truth. We as students of South Africa, we as the youth of South Africa, are sick and tired of rhetoric. We want solutions, sustainable solutions.
What would you advise him to do if you
follow the model of NMMU? At NMMU, we have down payment exemption. This means free registration for all poor students. If your parent earns less than 40,000, you register for free. Debt clearance. If you have a debt at NMMU, it's cleared. Why can't the minister invest in that? He's saying, no, we don't have a model. I'm saying to him now, we have a model. Come to PE, we'll show you our model.
What do you want him to do to legislate what you're saying?
Exactly. We need each and every student in South Africa to gain access to university. Not only access, but also success. Because we fail in these universities. We want dynamic African universities where African curricula is taught. In our basic education, we want teachers that are qualified. We want infrastructure. We want a child like me, raised by a general worker. Umama upayele cleaner, she works as a cleaner. I want to have the same opportunities as Umdana Ramaphosa, a millionaire. I want us to be able to compete in the same playing ground. And that's what we are challenging the minister to do. That's what we are challenging the government to do.
Mcebo, what would you advise the minister? I mean, if you were to sit in front of him, or you are part of the group that's going to sit with him tomorrow, what would you say?
To be honest with you, Vuyo, the minister knows exactly what he needs to do, because he has been told over and over again. But because these are people who are protecting capital, the ANC government is in the pocket of capital.
I thought he was a die-hard communist.
Is a yellow communist. Because if he was a communist, indeed, if he was a communist, we wouldn't be paying fees today. He was given a draft of how to implement free education a long time ago. He's been sitting on top of it because he benefits from NSFAS. Because NSFAS is a tender. Someone won a tender to control NSFAS in Cape Town. Now, this is the same person. It means he has shares in there. That's why they don't want to implement free education in this country. The solution here is very clear. Like he is saying that. I've been saying to the minister, control the monopoly, control the academic freedom of these universities. Be in charge. Take charge. There is no reason to have upfront fee payments, like the registration fees, because they reject you, they exclude you before you even get there. Allow a student the chance to go there into the institution. And the minister knows that. We've been telling him over and over again, but there is no will. The ANC government has not transformed the education system of this country. And these are my comrades, and I'm a member in good standing. And it hurts me when I walk and face those students every day, and they say, "You're ANC," and I say, "Yes, it is." And we are fighting it because we love it. We are going to raise these issues without fear or favor because we are rooted in the students. The students come first before the ANC government. The students, because we are the students. There is no SASCO. There is no ANC Youth League without the students. Now we represent the masses of our people. That's why we speak the language of the students, not the language to protect leadership, because leaders come and go. The students will remain. Now we are saying, Blade must call the vice chancellors, speak to the vice chancellors, scrap out registration fees, and allow students to go there, scrap out the debt. Now we then begin to control the fees themselves, the degree. We must have civil engineering. If it's 30,000, it must be 30,000 across the board. Not that civil engineering at VETS is 80,000, civil engineering at Dorfontein is 30,000. It doesn't make sense. It's excluding. It means only white kids will go to the better universities, because the ANC government from 1994 failed to improve the former Bantustan universities. If you look at Teflop today, you look at Univen today, you look at Mangosuthu today, they are a shame. You can't compare those universities with VETS, UCT and Stellenbosch, because those universities till today, they hold a teaching and learning status. When you go to VETS and UCT, they have a research status, which automatically means someone who graduated there is better than those ones. What has the ANC government done to improve those universities? It is easy to decolonize the apartheid universities than to decolonize the curriculum and to improve the status of those universities in the rural areas. And what the ANC did when they took over in 1994, they scrapped out your teachers' colleges, your nurses' colleges, your agricultural colleges. Now we are struggling. The universities which were there are failing to absorb those students. Now we are running short of qualified teachers. If you go to the rural areas, the same students who walk 10 kilometers to and from school to laboratories which don't have material, to being taught by teachers who are unqualified, to compete with children from CARES, St. Andrews, all over these Model C schools. It's a serious challenge to close that gap.
Do you think, I know you've said that the Minister Blade Nzimanda's head must fall, but that's unlikely to happen. What should happen?
It's a sad thing.
If he doesn't listen to any of the suggestions that you guys will be making tomorrow.
We only have one choice really as the youth. It's to unite behind this goal.
And do what?
And not give up.
Do what?
Fees Must Fall has to continue until we reach what we want.
Which means what exactly?
If it means that universities have to shut down, then that's the case. Because the government is not listening to us. What must we do? We've been sitting in tables, we've been giving him solutions. Even now I'm proposing a solution to the minister to say, Minister, this is what you need to do. If they are really concerned about the future of the country, they will invest in the youth, because we are the future.
So if he is not acceding to your demands, then universities must come to a standstill.
Let me not decide on the masses, but I believe that leadership has to meet and decide on a way forward to make the government account to us, because we put that government there. We were the ones, our parents fought for the struggle, because we were promised free education, we were promised equal opportunities.
I'm speaking to the president at the weekend. He says what the government has put on the table is what he has put on the table. And we shouldn't be, to use his word, utopian about this. Let's take this thing step by step. What the government is able to afford now is the 6.9 billion that the minister has spoken about, and all the other things that were announced on December 16. Let's now take a break and look at what we've got, work with what we've got, and then allow the commission or the inquiry to then look at the next steps.
Government. We have a dictatorship, because you can't just say, I've put what I've put on the table, you must accept. A government is a government for the people. by the people.
Okay, gentlemen.
No, Comrade Vuyo.
Well, before I'm going to allow these people, but before I do that, we're going to take a quick break, but hold your thoughts right there. We'll be back right after this.
COSAS, Southern Africa's leading distance learning institution, accredited, affordable and accessible management education programs, higher certificates, diplomas, undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. Register at ManCOSA and be part of Southern Africa's leading private business school. Visit our website mancosa.co.za. ManCOSA, Management Education Reimagined.
Good afternoon. You're watching the Midday Report.
Lunchtime news amplified.
But for now, this is what they call home. Their hope to shift to a higher ground seems to be against the tide.
Midday Report provides you with more than just news stories.
I just want Port Elizabeth to know that they own a world-class theatre.
Good afternoon. You're with the news at 1 in the headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. This is News Live. I'm Natasha Thorpe. Let's take a quick look at what's coming up in your headlines.
Good afternoon and welcome to A View from the House.
For all things news, tune in to Midday Report weekdays at 12 noon only on the SABC News Channel.
Welcome back. You're watching On the Record. We are with former VETS SRC President Mcebo Dlamini and NMMU SRC President Nicholas Nyati. You wanted to, I just wanted to finish your thought before I move on to the next question.
Look, what I wanted to raise, just to add on what the President has said here, is that the government is found wanting. They are reacting. It's like they were not prepared for this thing. They didn't see it coming.
What do you think that is?
That's lack of leadership. Period. They didn't see this thing coming. They thought that the students, the black youth of this country are still harboring in the, because they've been deceived for a long time that we are free. In 1994, we were told that we are free, when in actual fact, the black youth is not free. Maybe our parents are free of being kicked by the bastion and the madam. But us, we are not free. So we have realized that we are not free and we are demanding our freedom as it was promised to us. Now, the ANC government from Polokwane took a resolution to say, go and implement free education. They got that mandate, blatant man. Go and implement it. They sat on top of it because they allowed themselves to be controlled by capital. Capital who told them you can't implement this because education in this country is business. If you were to provide free education, a lot of people will be poor, white people who are controlling education. You will be shocked that schools in Cape Town, America is buying schools in Cape Town and SATU is quiet. And COSAS here just left and they were quiet about it. America is buying schools. What is it that they want to teach there? In our own country, can you go and buy a school in America? That's a serious concern.
Do you agree,
we must
Nicholas?
raise with these issues.
Is education, that education is big business and that's detrimental.
This is what's happening, to be quite honest. And I have said it before, it's because the government is not investing in the universities. He touched a little bit on universities like Forte, for example, the previously black universities. Government does not invest in those universities. Last year, we said fees must fall. Government, okay, Sure, we'll give you 0% fee increment. Where did they take the 2 billion from? From the infrastructure development budget that was supposed to be allocated in universities like Fort Hare, like WUSU. Those universities are bankrupt. In the next 2 years, they'll be dead. Imagine University of Fort Hare, a university with such history. Robert Mugabe, product of Fort Hare. President Mandela, product of Fort Hare. And our government is just letting that university down.
Now, universities have also become a site of struggle for political parties, right? You are an SRC president belonging to DASO. You're a former SRC president, you belonged to PYA.
Yes.
Right. The other gentleman who was supposed to be here is an SRC president at the University of Limpopo. He belongs to the EFF. Right. You're sitting here and both of you seem to be talking, well, more or less, except for a nuance here and there, talking the same language. The question, though, is, are you going to be able to sustain student unity? And in a year where that is an election year, to what extent do you think your various political home or the politics of your political homes may just dilute what I'm seeing here tonight?
Great question, Vuyo. This is what's happening with the youth currently. Ideology, yes, we have it, but we are concentrated on the goal, and that is free education for the poor. We are sick and tired of being divided, and that's what's happening. They're dividing us because of the political lines that we are in. They're drawing political lines to say PYA can't unite with DASO. Why? Because we all want free education for the poor. So as the youth, I would believe, Mcebo, that we will unite. And as proof of our unity, let me take off my political branding to show you that this is bigger than us. This is about the youth of South Africa. And as DASO, or as the NMMU SRC, we're calling each and every student in universities to unite behind the Fees Must Fall movement, to say we want free education for the poor.
Do you think that's going to happen at VETS? Because, I mean, if the events of the past few days are anything to go by, our leaders have gone underground, no one seems able to be, to take charge of things. Is it going to happen at VETS?
Well, let me start here. Yes, indeed, we are politically affiliated, all of us. It's not true that we are apolitical or non-partisans. We are politically affiliated and we are politically conscious. But and we sometimes represent a certain view of our political home. But in this one, we came together and defined ourselves as black students. Political affiliation aside, it doesn't mean when you are a PYA member, you study for free. They are excluded in numbers, in as much as we are affiliated to the ruling party. Because poverty has no political lines. People who vote the ANC still sleep on the streets. People who vote the African National Congress in Soweto, where I come from, they still sleep in shacks without electricity. When it rains, they have to walk on top of water. But that will change because the youth have taken over under the banner of the African National Congress. Now, what happened is that colonialization is very dangerous. It divided us firstly using tribal lines. You are Xhosa, I'm Swati, he's Pedi, he's what. But we regrouped. When they came back, they then divided us. They destroyed the importance of black conscious movements. Because what we are doing now is the role of black conscious movement. Black conscious movement, after 1994, they went underground after the 1976. And over again, we are faced with questions. Is black conscious still relevant? It is very much relevant because race is a serious issue in this country. We are not just raising issues of students. We are raising issues of black students. So that's why the importance of black conscious movement. If there were those black conscious movement, we're going to put away these regalias and rally under that movement. After that, you go to Tuli House, you go to DA there, you go to EFF. When we come back, we're under the banner of the black conscious movement. I am calling for a serious black conscious movement that will unite our people moving forward.
Your last word, Nicholas?
My last word is simple. Let us as the students of South Africa unite and reach our goal as the youth. And I only have one question. WTF, where is the funding? Where is the funding? That's to you, Dr. Plate.
Thank you very much. Nicholas Nyati, SRC President from the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. Mcebo Dlamini, former President, SRC President at Wits University. Thanks to both of you gentlemen for being part of this conversation this evening, and best of luck.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Well, that's where we are going to leave this particular discussion. Now, before we go, the Chancellor of Oxford University, Chris Patten, has warned against rewriting history. This was his first public comment on a student campaign to remove a statue of Cecil John Rhodes from one of the university's colleges. In his comments, Patten warned that history was not a blank page on which to write our own version of what it should have been, according to our temporary views and prejudices. Now, I would like to hear your thoughts. You can tweet us at OTR_404. From all of us here, it's a goodbye for now. We'll be back same time tomorrow.